White shirt.
Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Together? Did you say together? Well, guess what? We're together. We've never been together before. We've never been in the same room. We've never been in the same state. And I'm always in the state of confusion, so...
I guess I'm here for something.
And Michelle is actually, she's normally in Salt Lake City, but she flew up here to be with me today and to do these shows, and I'm eternally grateful. She just adds so much to everything that we do. And as a matter of fact, I would love for you to introduce the guest we have for this hour.
I'd love to. Today we have Philip Wilder joining us and on the show. He's all about adventure, and he has 7 published books. Is that correct, Philip?
3 published books,
Okay,
7
3
novels.
published books, 7 novels, and 9 books total. He's been through a lot, and he's learned how to gain faith and how it's guided his life, and we're here to talk about it all.
And he is an adventurer of sorts. He's traveled all over the world. And of course, how many places could you have gone? You're just a child.
Well, okay, this is the extra crazy part. I had never left the U.S. before I turned 22.
Oh, wow.
So in the course of, I'm now 31, in the course of 9 years, I've now been to 35 countries about. Though as I've traveled, I've learned it's a little hard to count how many countries you've been to because there's some dispute on what is a country, apparently. But thank you for having me on the show. It's awesome to be here.
We appreciate having you. So when you were 22, in the grand old age of 22, what was it? A burr underneath your saddle, or what was it that determined that you were gonna go travel the world?
I'd almost say the opposite. My friend moved out of state a year earlier, and I was so mad at him. I was like, how could you leave us? You know, I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado. Well, northern Denver, Colorado, Thornton technically. And all my friends were there, all my family was there, and then he just up and leaves me, and I was like, life is terrible now because my friend left me. I had other friends, but I didn't consciously make this decision, but I thought in my head, like, I'm never going to move away. Like, why would I leave all of this great stuff that I have here? Then God had a different plan for me. And 2 years after that, I ended up deciding to go and move to the Middle East. And so it was not on my radar, but that's what happened. And I'm so glad it did happen because it's been awesome getting to travel the world. But who would have expected that me at the age of 22 that I'd get my first passport and actually decide to move to the other side of the world?
I'm willing to bet that your mom and dad had a different point of view.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like, Philip, there are people there that don't like each other, and there's troubles over there. Why don't you go someplace like, I don't know, Hawaii? There's no troubles there, and everybody can have a good time. So, how did you answer them?
Well, yeah, that was a very long conversation. My mom
Totally
was
imagine.
sad, of course, but she was very supportive and she was very happy for me to go. It was a different conversation with my dad, but you know, I just graduated from college. It was my time to spread my wings, and so he couldn't really stop me at that point, and off I went, and I survived. Now, okay, let me dispel a popular belief that the Middle East is really dangerous. Let me just say that where I was in the Middle East, there was one terrorist attack in the whole 2 years that I was there, and one person died from it, and like 3 people were injured. It was a pretty minor terrorist attack. However, in this Denver metro area, while I was gone, there was like 7 shootings. So we can label it with terrorism, terrorist attacks, don't go there. And mind you, I went during the height of ISIS. So you would think there'd be a lot more, but realistically, wherever you're at. And then afterwards, I moved to Albuquerque and realized, wow, Albuquerque is way more dangerous than where I was in the Middle East.
Why did you pick Albuquerque of all places? I don't even like the name.
Well, God has a sense of humor. That's about all that I can say. Because when I was thinking about joining a ministry in Albuquerque, I was like, okay, I like this ministry, but I am not moving to Albuquerque. And then 4 months later, I moved to Albuquerque. But there seems to be a theme. It's like, I'm never going to do this. And then a little bit later, I end up doing that thing.
Be careful what you
Yeah.
never wish for, because you're
Yeah.
liable to get it and
Yeah.
and stuff. So, Rochelle, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Just kidding. No, I think what's been on my mind, I want to back it up a little bit. Tell me more about your experience of what it was like, the feeling and the thought process and all these things of having that moment where God came in and was like, hey, this is something that I'm guiding you to do, and being able to trust it and learn through it, just all the above, and what it was like pretty much up until you made the decision, you knew you were going to go somewhere, and then actually did it.
Well, whenever I get into the nitty-gritty parts of the story, I never sound quite as much like a hero, because there's a lot of fear and a lot of terror and a lot of, I don't want to do this, all throughout that.
Well,
I
hey, Philip, I hate to
remember,
break you, but you're human.
I know, very human, very human. But it's easy, especially people who write books, it's easy to believe that somebody you don't know is just a phenomenal person and has no faults or anything. It's actually kind of funny. I found out that some of my hardest audience to sell my book to are people who know me, because typically you read a book from somebody you don't know. And so then when it is somebody you do know, it's like, surely this isn't as good as all these other people I don't know, because that person's just Philip. So going to the Middle East was, yeah, at first, when I really felt God calling me to go to the Middle East, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a week to pray about this. And I just kept praying about it. And then like after a few days, it was pretty clear in my head that I was like, okay, I know, like, I kind of felt God say to me, like, you know, this is what I want you to do. You're just still praying, hoping that'll change my mind. And I was like, okay, yep, you're right. It says like, I guess we're doing this. But also there was an element of like, if I don't go now, there's really no better time to go. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. You know, I didn't even have any furniture because I was still living at home. I was finishing up college. It was probably about the easiest time there could ever be to move across the world, because it was just a me decision. It wasn't a, well, how is this relationship going to work out? Or how is my wife or my kids going to handle this? You know? So it was a pretty easy time to actually move around the world. I could almost bring everything I owned with me in like a suitcase and a half, including my 2 Nerf guns.
Because you can't leave those behind.
No, I figured it would be important.
So I got to ask you, because there's somebody in your world, and when you said God's telling me to do this, it's like, okay, you're telling me that God is talking to you, and God doesn't talk to you. You talk to him, and that's why you pray, but he doesn't ever. So when you got the sign, was it a sign that you had? Was it a billboard you saw? What was it that made you decide that God was talking to you about doing this? What sign did you get?
That's a way harder question than I would like it to be. It's not typically an audible voice. Sometimes it feels like an audible voice, even though it's not. But what I've learned is it's when a thought comes in and just intrudes everything I'm thinking about and just totally goes against the flow of what I'm thinking about. Like, here, I'll give you an example. there was this one time that I was talking to my parents, and I really wanted to go to my friend's going away party. It was a girl that I liked. This is kind of a common theme. I was a little desperate when I was younger, and it was her going away party. So this was kind of my last chance to like really like hit things off, hopefully, so that maybe like we can keep talking when she leaves. Anyways, uh, my parents said, no, you can't go, for no reason. It's not like I was busy. It's not like anything was going on. It's not like I wasn't paying for my own gas or my own license, like all that sort of stuff. They just said no. And so then after that, they started telling me that since I'm going to be home, I could help them pack for a trip. And I was like, okay, like you're not telling me not to go because I did something wrong. You're just telling me not to go because you don't want me to go. Like this doesn't make any sense. So it was really frustrating. Obviously, you can imagine how that would be frustrating. And I was thinking like, okay, like I believe God calls me to honor my parents, so I'm not going to go, but I'm definitely not going to help you pack. And then right as I had that thought, this other thought intruded that was like, or you could use this opportunity to show them love. And I was like, oh, I hate that idea, but that couldn't have come from me. And so it must have been God. And so sometimes that's how it happens, so like I'm praying, like, I don't want to go, God, but is this your will? Do you want me to go? I don't know. I don't know. And it's like, you just want me to change my mind. I've already called you. I was like, okay. And I roll my eyes now because, the future is always scary, but it's always a joy whenever I do step out in that sort of way. And so it's not, I don't ever feel of it like a burden. Like when God calls me to do something, it just typically means I have to step outside my little safety bubble, which leads to adventure and exploration and living life truly as I believe. So,
Well, and I'm surprised that God didn't say, yeah, I want you to go out the window because I really like this girl.
I'm happy with who I married.
That answer?
Sorry, what?
Did you keep asking him, hoping that maybe the answer would change?
Oh, about going to the going away party?
Yeah.
No, that was a pretty firm answer there. And to be fair, I'd only really talked to this girl like 2 or 3 times, so it was kind of like grasping at straws, but I was kind of desperate. And then there was also another side of like, okay, but if she's leaving, then like that's just going to make things hard as well too. So anyways, it didn't ruin my life to not go. But it was very frustrating because there was no reason why I couldn't have gone. It's not like somebody else needed the car.
Well, how old were you at this time?
20, 21 maybe.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. And your parents actually said, oh, no, you can't go there. You're just a kid. It's like, listen, I'm an adult now. I'm 20. I know everything.
Well, just imagine the conversation when I told them I wanted to move to the Middle East.
Oh boy. I can only imagine. And now, what part of the Middle East did you stay?
So I went for missions work, so I can't really say which country. I'm sorry. But I went to the Middle East.
Well, and I'm guessing too that you probably taught them so much because, for one, it was something they were scared for you because of their own fear. But now they probably look back at that and they're like, wow, look at Philip. Look what he did and look how we reacted, and where he's at now. I bet not only did you teach them some things, but made them super proud and showed them that you were capable of anything that you needed and knew that you had protection along the way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, they haven't said that.
That was my next question.
But I'm sure that has happened and I have seen growth. And I mean, ultimately, I've seen growth in myself. So that's a win. But one of my questions, like going through high school, I've always been pretty passionate about ministry and stuff like that. And so my question, because I really felt like God was calling me to honor my parents through all of that. And I don't know if that's something that he calls everyone to do. But for me, it was like, I'm living at home, like I'm not paying rent. So like I can honor my parents with this, with that. So there's a bunch of different ministry things that I had to say no to because they wouldn't let me. And so then I wondered, like, for years, like, okay, God, when is going to be the time that I'm going to have to disobey? Surely that time will come eventually, but when is that time? And so that time going to the Middle East, that was a breaking point. I mean, not really the breaking point, but I was like, okay, I'm moving out of the house anyways. I'm graduating from college, so now is the time. And I wondered for so long, like, what's it going to be like? How am I going to know for sure? And then it just was like so obvious. And so all that time wondering and worrying, it's a common thing. When you worry a ton about something, you end up years later looking back and thinking, well, that was a total waste of time worrying about it that whole time.
Well, and the other thing is if you didn't go, you would be wondering your whole life why you didn't go. And it's
Exactly.
important. It's important for you to follow through on your dreams. I know that
Mhm.
sounds really silly, but I think it's really true.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do agree, because you can question something for so long until you actually put in the action, and then you actually find out. And that's why I love that you've done so many things, gone so many places, and proved so many things wrong. So after this quick break that we're going to take here shortly, that is my next question: is what was your where did you go that provided you the most change and the most learning, or was it kind of just all one big thing?
You're just
Great question.
dynamite professional, I got to tell you.
Thanks.
We'll be right back. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. It is so exciting because, generally speaking, when I play that song, I watch Rochelle from Salt Lake City dancing in her seat, and now I get to sit next to her and watch her dance in her seat. It really is fun. And so we've got Philip Wilder with us. He's an author. He's an adventurer. I got to ask you, Philip, would you consider yourself an adventurer?
Oh, definitely. I love adventure.
I know when we did our 15-minute meeting that we do, you were on a mountain.
Yes. And maybe time management is one of my flaws.
I'm guilty too. It's okay. Maybe we'll get it down.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll figure out, because we couldn't really have a tremendous conversation because you were going in and out and stuff, but that's okay.
But here we are, and I'm not on a mountain, so maybe I've learned.
What mountain were you on at that date?
I was at Loveland Ski Area. I love to snowboard, but I don't have the money to really go to all them nice bougie places like Vail and Breckenridge. So I go to Loveland, and it's awesome there. So there's my little promo for Loveland.
Where is Loveland located?
It's an hour west of Denver. So, yeah, maybe I should collect some sort of like royalty fee for all of this promo. But
Hey, those are still good mountains in that area. I don't think you need to pay more to get the experience.
It's true. No, the mountains are just as good. The snow is the same. I mean, it still falls from the sky, and it's a lot. I wouldn't even say it's much smaller, but there's a lot fewer people. And so that's a win in my book. And it's just beautiful over there. So it's closer, it's cheaper. And I guess maybe the one thing you don't get is you don't get the super fast chairlifts. They're a little bit slower, but when you're going through trees and climbing up mountains, you don't ride chairlifts too often.
That is true.
So you snowboard rather than ski?
Yes, I'm afraid of skiing because my mom blew out her knee, and I've heard of so many others blowing out their knees skiing. And so I figured I'd rather blow out a wrist than blow out a knee.
So you're picking which body part to lose at this point.
Yeah, snowboarders tend to have more injuries, but the injuries are like shoulder, elbow, hand, or wrist, whatever. Skiing, the injuries are like knee, hip, and all that stuff. So, I mean, I like to be able to move.
Well,
I also like to be able to write, so I'm still taking a risk.
I want to know how you get off the ski lift with a snowboard. I've seen people try and fail many times.
Yeah, well, let me not answer that question real quick and tell you an incredible story. I had a friend join us from Saudi Arabia who had never gone snowboarding or skiing before. And so we're riding this lift up, and about 3/4 of the way up, he turns to us and he's like, "So, should we jump off now?" And we're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, "Don't you like jump off when you get up high enough?" And we're like 20 feet above the ground. And it's like, you chose to come snowboarding thinking you'd have to jump off the lift. Like, you are probably one of the bravest people I've ever met, but no, you get off at the top. It is hard getting off as a snowboarder because you don't have nearly as much control. But the idea is just try to go straight as long as possible until you're out of reach of anybody else getting off the lift, and then you can crash.
I love that ending.
Yeah, well, crashing is an intricate part of snowboarding and skiing too.
Hey, I'd have to say that I would highly be able to agree with that because I was a figure skater. I still do it. I did it professionally for many, many years. And you have to learn to fall. It's like those muscles that we build with you going on all your adventures, and you have to build up those muscles of, I wouldn't say prepare yourself to fail, but be able to catch yourself when you do fall so that you can get back up. Which is going to guide me right into my next question. Well, coming back to the question I asked, which is, was there some place that you went that specifically taught you the most and you experienced the most change, or was it kind of just one whole grand adventure and then you looked back and were like, whoa?
Yeah, that's kind of like asking a parent which is their favorite kid. Which right now I only have one child, so that's an easy answer. But in regards to this, I've been to a lot of countries, and it's really hard to say. I mean, definitely my time in the Middle East, since it was so long, being there for 2 years, like, you really get to understand the culture, you get to understand who you are in that culture, and you just get to make another home away from home, which just that whole experience really changed me. My first year over in the Middle East, my team that I was with was a lot smaller, and they didn't like as many of the same things as I liked. And so I ended up just feeling like I'm a huge extrovert. You might have been able to guess, which is kind of weird because most times it's introverts that are authors. And so somehow I got in there too. But my roommate was a big introvert. So there is a lot of time that I had to figure out what I wanted to do it by myself, and just really step out there. Like, one time my language school teacher invited me to his farm, and after he invited me, someone was telling me like, "Hey, just so you know, like, during a break one time we were talking with him about ISIS, and he kind of started defending ISIS a little bit. So are you sure you want to go to his farm?" And it's like, oh, that's crazy. Anyways, I went anyways, and I'm still here, obviously. But yeah, it was throughout all that, like, especially that time of feeling like I didn't really have anyone all that close with me, that really caused me to look inward and figure out who I am and what I like to do. And it's really interesting when you move to a new place, you got to figure out, what do you bring with you? Because you can't bring everything with you. In your old life, it's oftentimes like, oh, my siblings were doing this thing, so I started doing that thing. Or, hey, my friends are doing this, so I can join them in that. But when you go to a totally new place where you don't really know anyone, you have to decide which hobbies you're going to look for and find that group of people. And so it's kind of interesting figuring out what actually continued with you. So for me, it was like, oh, I'm still going on hikes. I'm still playing Ultimate Frisbee, and I'm still writing, and I'm still sitting in forest writing my book. So
Did you happen to acquire any new hobbies that you never thought you would?
I picked up learning how to play the Arabic flute.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
That's
You're
Yeah. Do you have your flute handy that you can Like hummus
I
bars?
do, but I haven't played it in a little while, so I don't know how good I'll be. And honestly, I'm pretty sure it's just a regular recorder, but a little bit cheaper because I bought it from like a random stand. But I do have it. Do you want to see it?
Yes, we'd love to.
Sure.
Okay, I'll get that for you.
And he's going to get that. And while he's getting that, it's like he's a really an interesting adventurer type person, don't you think?
Yeah, I think you're so inspiring for me, Philip, specifically because you're just a few years older than me, and everything that you're talking about, knowing that is a part of what you do that is so different than everything and everyone around you, and having to experience what it's like on your own and figure those things out. So I'm really excited that it was able to work out for you and you were able to follow that path and trust it. And how you talked about looking inward is absolutely gold. So I'm very excited for my future just by getting to see people like you who are actually making it happen.
And this is her first time coming up to Seattle.
Yeah.
And she was just magical in her like, this is amazing. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It was all stuff that she had never seen before. Oh, let's go down to the ocean. It's not the ocean, it's Puget Sound.
It's the ocean. Don't break my heart. Don't crush my dreams.
Look at that boat. Isn't that cool? Look at that spider. Isn't that what? Okay.
Yeah, well, and after you show us this instrument, one thing that I did experience I'd love you to touch on is how overwhelming it can be emotionally because your eyes and your brain can't really keep up with what's going on because it's all new. So let's take a look at this and then we'll touch base on that.
So this is it.
Cool.
It looks like a stick.
We like sticks.
It's a very special stick. Musical stick, I suppose you could say. But I think it's made out of a piece of bamboo. And it is a special stick because right there it has a sticker on it that says special. So
it's a special bamboo stick.
It says special Arabic flute on a little stamp on it. So got it for like $5. Definitely a huge investment.
So that means you're going to order one. You're going to practice.
No.
Oh.
I don't know. I can't think of anything snappy to say. So, but go ahead. You had a question.
Yeah. Just really the relation of going somewhere that is so new and sensory overload in general. How long did it take you to kind of adjust? Like I only left a few states over. You went to a whole new country. How did you get through that? How long did it take?
Well, it took me 2 years. But I mean, you always learn about a place and you learn more and more and more and more and more about a place. And so you never really stop learning when you go to any place. I mean, even where you're at, like here, I live in a tiny town of 35,000 people. I mean, I guess it's not tiny, but I still learn new things about this place everywhere I go. So, but when we first landed, me and my roommate, neither of us had ever been there before. Neither of us knew a single word of Arabic even. And we definitely crash landed when we first got there. Someone, I don't remember who, they found us a hotel before we got there. So we knew where we were supposed to go. We knew what we were supposed to tell the taxi driver. And I remember we got to our hotel and we're like, okay, let's go find some food. And fresh out of college, both of us are thinking, clearly we can't eat at this hotel. That's way too expensive. Let's go find something cheaper out on the road. So we start walking down the road and we walk probably, like, we're both so hungry right now. We both walk like maybe a mile down the road. No food anywhere. In the middle of a city, no food. And we're like, what? Like, where's all this food? So we turn around and we head back. Literally right next door to the hotel on the other side, food. And we didn't know how much things cost, which is weird because in the Middle East, like even though our numbers are of Arabic origin, somehow they use Indian script for their numbers. I don't know how. So anyways, it's super confusing. We have money. We don't know how much it costs. And fortunately, they walk us all through it. The food's terrible. We didn't like it. We get back to our hotel room. I had fortunately brought a bag of beef jerky. And no joke, that bag of beef jerky sustained us for like 5 days. Because every time we ate something, it was just so new to our stomachs and we could hardly stomach it. I remember our first morning, we didn't know if we could drink the water there. So we didn't know if we could even get juice or whatever. So we had to like go and find bottled water. Like we had no idea what we could do there. I think it was the first or second morning, my roommate ended up throwing up in the hotel lobby because fortunately they did have breakfast for us. But man, it was a total mess. And so then I think it was our second night there. We're going somewhere and they asked me like, hey, what kind of food would you want? And I was like, anything that tastes American, just something. Like I'm just so hungry and it's so hard to stomach anything. And so we go to a place and I order pizza and it still does not taste right. It just is different. Everything just tasted different. And it took a while for my stomach to finally handle that, but it was just everything: the sights, the sounds, the smell, the weather. I'm moving from Denver, Colorado, which is not the greenest place in the world, but way greener than the Middle East in fall. And so there's like no trees around and just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And because I didn't at all know what was going on within my first month there, I accidentally trespassed on royal grounds, which is a whole other story.
I know. Off with his head. Off with his head.
Yeah, I'm really incriminating myself here. It was an accident. It was a pure accident, and no one caught me.
No one caught you, and you're safe now. And so,
yes.
So that's. But and when we come back from this break, I gotta ask you, because going through customs and all of that, and there is so much trepidation because you just don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. You didn't know the language. And by the way, when you were like 3 or 4 days in after eating their cuisine for several days, and you were probably sicker than a dog, I wonder if you were saying to yourself, why did we do this? This is crazy. We need to take our halftime break, and we'll be right back. Rochelle's here. She's here. She's really here.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Go ahead.
Now we gotta get you doing it.
Yeah, I don't know how you're not dancing to that, Kevin.
Yeah.
He's weird, right?
Well, I was just thinking to myself, she's Ringo Starr.
Who is that?
And now you're thinking to yourself, how old am I?
Let me explain. Let me explain what I mean by this, because, by the way, we're talking with Philip Wilder. He's an author, and we're going to be talking about his books right now, one of which is Jake Rogers' Planet. But before we go there, I've got to, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, she's my Ringo Starr, because when the Beatles were just getting started, they had a drummer by the name of Pete Best. The record company didn't like him. He didn't play the way they wanted, and he just wasn't with them. And he couldn't carry the beat the way they wanted him to. And so they fired him, and Ringo Starr was a good friend of theirs, and he was in another band, and they brought him in, and that's when they took off. And that made the entire difference in the band's perception and how they played and stuff like that. So I'm going to start calling, "Hey Ringo, how are you?"
Hey, that's fair. And I can't tell you, Philip, how much I've learned about the Beatles since I've been with Kevin.
She has had no choice.
But I'm glad that just goes to prove you're one step ahead of me, and I won't forget that now. But yes, before we went to the commercial, now I've got so many things going through my head. My energy is through the roof. I'm sweating over here. But do you remember what I asked him?
You were going to ask, what was your favorite
yeah.
place to be? And the most significant memory that you had, other than when all the girls came because you were an American guy and they thought you were pretty hot.
Well, that didn't happen. So one culture shock is guys and girls really don't talk there. And so I'd like to think that before I went there, I was pretty good at talking to girls. But then in the course of being there, like one time I ordered Starbucks and it was a girl behind the cash register. And I was like, what do I say? How do I do this? Because guys and girls just did not really talk. Occasionally they would come and talk to me, but it was kind of shameful on their part to come and talk to me. One girl told me she wanted my eyes, like actually wanted to take my eyes. And I didn't know if that was it is a compliment, but anyway.
Not if she uses a knife.
The girls did not come flocking, and perhaps that's a good thing. Anyways, where was my favorite place? Is that what the question was?
Or even just like your favorite experience, which I know is like asking about your favorite kid. So I decided.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, there was a forest that I found there, which I lived in the middle of a city, so it was kind of hard and in the middle of the Middle East, and so it's kind of hard to find forests. But I found one, and that was kind of like my safe space. I could get away from all the noise of the city. It wasn't a big forest. It was just like the side of a hill. But and no one went there. No one ever went there. Some shepherds would take their sheep there. And there were some wild dogs. And I did find a turtle once and some puppies. But it was this random forest in the middle of the city. Oh, not in the middle of the city, a bit on the outskirts that I could get to. And I just found a bunch of weird things there. I found a whole valley full of like disposed mannequins. That was a little creepy. But I found a little cliff that I could climb up to and overlook, like just above all the trees, so I could look out at the view. I'd set up my hammock and I would write there and read a book or just take a nap. So that was kind of like my refuge, which is really cool.
When did you take up the whole writing thing? Was that after you decided to go and travel and write about it, or was that something that you kind of already planned on doing?
Writing has been with me since before I can remember. At Sunday school one time, my teacher gave us these books and she told us to draw a story of forgiveness. And I don't remember how old I was, but there are 2 words in this whole book, and that's my first and last name, and I spelt them both wrong. So that's about how old I was.
Oh.
And anyway, so I drew a story of forgiveness and I loved it. And I went around telling everybody about this book, about these 2 fish that learned to share, and one broke this ball and the other had to forgive him. Anyways, I love this book. And so my parents asked the teacher to make some more of these books so that I can basically tell more stories. And so I started turning my dreams into stories, and then I started writing other stories. I submitted one of my books to Reading Rainbow for their story contest and lost, and they rejected me. And so I tell people to this day that was my very first rejection at like the age of 8, almost a badge of pride. But I finished my first novel when I was 16, and that experience was just invigorating. And I realized I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life. And it's weird because there are a lot of things that I have stopped doing. Like Ultimate Frisbee has come and gone. There have been different seasons where I haven't done that, or running sometimes comes and goes. Even, I guess, snowboarding, but I couldn't really snowboard while I was in the Middle East. So that wasn't me quite choosing to let it go. But writing has always stuck with me. And yeah, I've always wanted to be a published author and get my fiction books out there. And so to finally get this book out there, it is such a dream come true and has been so. But I published it at the age of 31. So 15 years after I finished that first book and felt really called to this in many ways. I've written now 7 novels, but this is the first one that I was able to get published, and really just God opened the doors for it. And so, yeah, that writing's just always been a part of my life. I've tried to give it up several times, but then it just comes right back and I just can't help it. And it's weird too, because I have a lot of friends who would write with me when I was younger, but something happens in people as they get older and they just stop writing, probably the time element. But even though I'm an extreme extrovert and writing basically requires isolation, somehow I've managed to keep it a part of my life. And I've honestly never once doubted that I'd get published for some reason. It's just been that core into my DNA, which was really cool. So my story is a little bit different than most, but I'm very grateful for it. And it's brought me to where I am today.
Tell us about Jake Rogers' Planet.
Yes. Well, let me tell you the inspiration, because the inspiration sums up the book pretty well. When I was in the Middle East, I was away from my family, and I was scared that God would call me to the Middle East for like 20 years. And that fear of, are you laughing because 20 years is not that long, or?
Well, no, it's like you're having a negotiation. It's like, all right, I'll go, but please don't make it 20 years, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, the commitment initially was 1 year, and then it turned into 2 years. And I was like, oh, what if this turns into 20 years, 30 years, whatever? Because in that first year, I missed the birth of my niece. I missed my sister's engagement and just all these other things. And I was like, I hate being away from my family and all my friends. Like, this is hard. Like, yeah, it's great being here. I do love this, but like, not 20 years. Please, not 20 years. Then I went and watched the movie The Martian. Awesome movie. And in The Martian, this guy, he's stranded on Mars. And so as I was watching this movie, I was thinking like, okay, my situation, like being afraid of being here for 20 years is like, and only getting to see my family once or twice a year. Like, yeah, that's pretty sad. But like being stranded on another planet and having to ask the question, will I ever see another human again? That is terrifying. And right as I had that thought, as we were talking about earlier, I had this other intrusive thought come in, and I'm confident it was God. And he's like, hey, but even in that situation, I would still call you not to be afraid, because I'd be right there with you. And that blew my mind. I was like, no way, that's crazy. And so I locked that thought away, like, okay, maybe I'll write a book on this one day. This was in 2016, 2017. Then in 2020, I actually started writing that book. And 2023, I finished writing it. And 2025 now, it's actually published. So that's what the book is about. Jake Rogers, he falls through a portal, gets stranded on an alien planet, and he has to figure out, how do I survive? Like, this is absolutely terrifying. There's crazy beasts, crazy animals. Here, I can maybe show you one of the animals. But absolutely terrifying situation. And throughout all of this, it's a Christian book. God reminds him, hey, look, even in these situations, here's his animal friend that he makes throughout all of it. Really cute little rabbit mixed with a sheep, mixed with a squirrel, mixed with a tiger type alien. Throughout all of that, God keeps reminding him that he does not need to be afraid, because God's right there with him. And it was a really fun journey getting to come up with this story and discovering this world alongside Jake. And one of the things that he discovers pretty early on is there's these advanced alien ruins. So he has all these questions of like, are these aliens still alive? Did something kill them off? And is whatever killed them off still around? Do I need to worry about these things? Are they going to come back? Are they going to hunt me down? Like, what's going on? So it's a fun adventure story where he just discovers this crazy planet. And this is a crazy planet. It's been really fun being creative about it and come up with a bunch of crazy beasts and animals. And there's basically pterodactyls in it. he actually calls them pterodactyls. They're not technically pterodactyls, but every time he has to watch the skies to make sure one of these pterodactyls isn't going to swoop down and take him away. So yeah, pretty crazy world, a world that someone should definitely be afraid of. And so he has to learn through all of it that he doesn't need to be afraid because God is right there with him. So that's what the book's about, and it is super fun.
Well, and I'm glad you wrote it, and
Thank
and I hope. How long has it been out now?
I published it February 25th.
So you probably don't have any numbers yet.
Kind of.
Oh, how's it doing?
It's doing well. Yeah. So I have 2 other books. Single Isn't Second Best. It's a nonfiction book. And my other book, Discovering God's Calling. It's another nonfiction book. And that kind of set my bar of what I was expecting sales wise. And this guy is blowing it out of the water. So way better than those books, which makes sense because it's fiction and the cover is just awesome. So it's really fun to be able to share it. And it's really cool to see all these doors that have been opening up. Basically, since I've published it, I've been on the road almost nonstop, going to different places, sharing it with schools and youth groups. And it's been a fun adventure. I've absolutely loved it.
So you're a marketer too.
I am an extrovert. And I like to talk to people, and people have started realizing that, and they like to have me come in and talk to their people, whether they be elementary schoolers, middle schoolers, high schoolers, or just adults.
And we need to take our last break, and it's just 30 seconds, everybody. So don't lose your mind over it. But when we come back, I did want to touch on the one of the other books, which is because I think this is a question that everybody has in their mind: discovering God's calling. How do you know he's calling? And how do you know that that it's, well, I'm going to ask Rochelle to reform that question to make it actually make sense when we come back. So we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
I told you, Philip, I was gonna get him to do it.
There you go.
I'm a terrible dancer. She's good. I'm terrible.
You just need
Hey, I was a terrible world traveler.
Well, we all have our gifts.
Yes.
Yes, and we all have our moments of stepping out past what we think we can't do.
So Rochelle was going to ask you a highly intelligent question because the question I was going to ask you made absolutely no sense at all. So, Rochelle.
Well, a part of that I would say is both of our questions kind of tie together. It's, for one, how do you have that sense of trust of knowing what you're hearing rather than being just a thought or an emotion? A lot of people experience it differently, just the power in it, whether it's the God, universe, whatever, and how that changed also in your writing styles along the way.
This is a bit of a trickier question to answer because I don't know if I can answer it for everybody, if that makes sense.
Just from your own perspective.
For you,
My
yeah.
own perspective, okay. For me, part of it, okay, and this is the universal part that I can share. The first part is untangling the thoughts. We have so many different sides of our brain and of our mind and of our emotions, and oftentimes it's just like tangled up, like a tangled up mess, and it's hard to know which is what's going on and all that sort of stuff. So first you need to kind of untangle all the different thoughts, like, okay, I want to do this. Why do I want to do that? Do I want to do that because I selfishly want this thing? Do I want that thing because it makes logical sense? Do I want that thing just because, like, I want it? Do I want that thing because someone told me to get it and I want to impress them, or whatever it might be? untangling those thoughts, like, okay, what are my reasons for wanting this thing? And what are my reasons for saying no to this thing? And kind of pulling that all together. And that really helps, like, figuring out, like, do I want this thing just simply because I want this thing? Okay, if that's the case, maybe it's still a fine thing to get, but I'm buying it just because I want it, not because I'm doing the right thing or because I'm following God, which, is still fine. Like, I think God created colors and music and movies, like storytelling, for a reason. So once I've untangled those thoughts, then I can kind of look at it and be like, okay, is this something that serves myself or serves others? Is this something, as a Christian, is this something that falls in line with the Bible and kind of what God says? And that helps me a little bit further. Then there's also the other element of, like, the moment. I don't like relying too heavily upon a moment that I feel something kind of prompt me to do something. Because there was one time where I felt really prompted that my answer would come down from the laundry room. And so I went down there and I did find, like, a yes or no answer on a dryer. I was like, there's my answer. And it ended up not being a good answer at all. And so I learned, like, okay, experiences are not the most trustworthy thing. They can be trusted, but I'm not going to rely on that above all else. So the other tricky part, though, is, like, the Bible is written for everybody, not just for me. And so what it says is kind of for everyone. So how do I know what God is calling me to do? That's the other tricky part. And as I shared kind of earlier, is like in those moments where I just feel that thing that just totally goes against everything I've thought about, like this whole situation, like, oh my gosh, this is okay. Here's a great example. My book. Let's bring it back to my book. I tried for years to get this book traditionally published, submitting it to publisher after publisher after publisher and going to conferences to meet new people, to meet agents, all these different things. And I learned a ton over the years. And I really felt confident that I was going to traditionally publish this book and that that's what God was calling me to do. And I was going to wait as long as that took. 10 years of waiting later, I was still in the same spot. And that's fine. That was fine. I could play the waiting game. I'm only 31. Like, I can wait 10 more years. I can wait 15 more years. Like, waiting is okay, though it is annoying. So I could wait. But then something happened. I submitted my book to a publisher that I really, really wanted to get it published with. And when I got the rejection, another rejection from them, I opened up the email and felt relief. And that surprised me. I was like, why am I, like, always felt disappointed and frustrated at God? Why do I feel relieved that they rejected my book? And I realized, thinking deeper into myself, like, I don't want to be traditionally published because I know what I need to do now. Like, this whole journey of going to get traditionally published prepared me. Like, I knew the people I needed to hire. Basically, what I did was I traditionally published it myself, in a sense. I hired all the people that my traditional publisher would have hired themselves. Actually, some people I hired better people, more qualified people than the people they would have hired. And so I realized there's a few things in the book that I really wanted to make unique and that I wanted to do with it. Some of the things I can't share because it's a little bit of a spoiler. But I realized I wouldn't quite have that control if I traditionally published this book. And so, like, one of the things was I really wanted the cover designer I chose for this, Kirk DuPont. He is amazing. As you can tell, this cover is so cool. And I also really wanted, because it's really hard to describe alien creatures, the best I can do is it has fur like a tiger, horns like a rabbit, well, horns like a sheep, and cat-like ears. Like, that's the best you can really do describing things. And I did more than just that, but I was like, it'd be really cool to have pictures in here and a map in here as well too, a map that expands as he explores this world. Like, that would be so cool. And if I had traditionally published it, that would not even been an option. And so when I got that rejection letter and I felt that relief, I was like, that's crazy. Why do I feel this way? After investigating it, I realized, like, okay, God's making it pretty clear to me that now is the time, whether I find a traditional publisher or not, like this is the way God's leading. So that voice of just totally going against everything that you thought you wanted or even desired or expected, sometimes that's how God speaks. Other times it is more so audible. Like when I was in the Middle East, I was asking God, what do you want me to do next? My contracted time here is about up. Do I stay, commit to 3 to 5 more years? Do I go back home? Like, what do you want? And as I was praying about it, like after several months even of praying about it, I was sitting in a coffee shop writing, and suddenly it just hit me. And I wouldn't call it a vision because I could still see, but it was just a thought that was so consuming, like the world just kind of vanished away from me. And it was this new idea of like, God's calling me to equip the church by writing and speaking. Like that's just what I'm going to do. And so that was kind of God speaking to me in that moment. So it's different every time. I mean, I believe God is a personal God who wants to know us individually. And as you guys well know, people talk in different ways. Sometimes you're doing a podcast in different cities, sometimes you're in the same place. So
Well, and you do know that God is part of us and is with us all the time, whether it be the universe or whatever it is. So it's not a matter of having a personal relationship with Him that is outside of who you are, because you've got personal stuff going on with you too. Did you ever consider, and has this ever happened for, well, God darn it, we're going to run out of time.
I can make it quick.
No, this would take too long.
He wants the details.
Yes, because I want everybody to know that they can have a personal relationship with the divine, the universe, with God, whatever religious strength, and it doesn't involve the Bible. I want to make that clear. The Bible is not the end all of all writings that are out there. You can do, and you can be part. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, here, let me respond to that a little bit. I have kind of an answer for you.
Okay.
I find it so interesting how people go on journeys of self-discovery. Because you'd think of anyone, you would understand yourself. Right?
You don't.
But we don't. Like, as long as we live, we still discover new things that we like and love. And that's just so fascinating because we don't really get to choose what we like and what we love. And so whatever created us, we can make this broader than just my biblical God here. Whoever you believe created us, like that thing instilled within inside of us things that we like and that we love. And now we got to be careful because there are some things that we like and love that are bad, like stealing. Sometimes I do really want that $100 on the counter. That's a bad thing, but there are things that we just love that makes us come alive. Like I love writing. I love ultimate frisbee. I love snowboarding. Like, why do I love those things as opposed to art, like painting? I don't like art and I don't know why.
Because that's not your calling. That's not your passion.
Exactly.
That's not why you're here. There is a reason why God created you the way He did.
Exactly.
With doing what He did or she did or they did. I like she.
Me too.
She could be a good God. Anyway, so it's, but you get to choose how you're going to respond to all that. But by the way, now we need a whole nother hour, Philip.
Well, I'm free next month, so.
Oh, perfect. Philip Wilder, go to philipwilder.com. He's got several books out. Get his latest book. It sounds like that's going to make a hell of a sci-fi movie as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that. It'd be so fun, especially I love the whole book, but the ending, like if I could see that in a movie, that would be phenomenal. I'd love to just sit in that audience and watch all these people watch this movie for the first time and then just how it ends. Like hearing people gasp or just be silent, like it'd just be so cool. So maybe one day, tell all your friends, all of you listening, tell your friends, if you have any friends who are in the movie making industry, that this book would make a great movie.
But God is listening, like we've been talking about.
Yes.
The energy of the universe is always there. And I think that those people will find you and you might not even be prepared for it. But I will go right in the middle of that and I'll buy the book and I'll tell you what happens.
Perfect.
Okay. And then
There
we'll
you
figure it
go.
out from there. And
Well, it's on Audible too if you don't have the time.
Oh,
So
okay. Amazing. Amazing. Keep that in mind, people. Go on Audible, go on Amazon, figure out, get yourself Jake Rogers Planet. Visit philipwilder.com. And before we go, Philip, is there any advice you'd love to tell our audience?
Yes. One thing about the spelling of the book, his last name is Rogers. So the apostrophe comes after the S. Sometimes people get that mixed up and it's a little bit harder to find it. But I would also just say the main theme of the book is do not be afraid. You know, whatever you believe, whatever it is, don't let fear tell you what to do. Let fear tell you what's dangerous and what you should be cautious of. But if you're afraid of something just because it's uncomfortable, don't listen to that. Step out beyond that, because oftentimes that's when life becomes the most vibrant, when we step out beyond what we feel comfortable of. And that's honestly one of the things that I'm so grateful I've been able to do with going to the Middle East, with even publishing books. Like, it is a scary thing. What are people going to think about these books? Or going to the Middle East? What is it like? Am I going to die in a terrorist attack? You know, there's all these things that you don't know because you just haven't stepped there yet. And if fear, just fear of discomfort, fear of the unknown, whatever it might be, is a thing holding you back, don't listen to it. Step out beyond that. Do the thing that you've always wanted to do, but maybe I've just been too afraid to step out to do.
Amen.
Amen. Amen, young man. Philip Wilder has been our guest. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We've gone overtime. Our Demi's going to be mad at us.
That's okay. Just remember, before we leave, don't be afraid, and have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin